Okay, so I'd like to welcome everyone. Thank you, Oluwatobi. Thank you, Rukewe. Havens, thank you. I see you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Tochukwu, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So that being said, yes, Etim, thank you very much. Would that be right to say someone, right? Okay, so I'd like to say thank you. Without much ado, you are all welcome to today's class. This session will be a lot different from our, should I say, training sessions we may have had. This is like a follow-up, yes. This is Introduction to Learning and Development Part 2, but we'll be going from a different angle altogether. Now, one of the challenges we found out basically with learning and development, hello? Is anyone saying something?
We can hear you.
All
Please
right.
mute your mic. Please mute your mic. Admin, could you mute every other person apart from the facilitator? Thank you.
Right, thank you. So we found out that learning and development across board, not only in Africa, still poses a challenge for the mere fact that learning takes time. Learning takes being deliberate. Development is a choice. It's not something you stumble onto or will, by the wave of a wand, get access to. Therefore, it cuts across all strata, whether those that are just newbies to an organization, those who are middle managers, those who are senior managers. It cuts across all boards. So there's a need basically for those who are the custodians of dispensing or making learning and development available to these organizations to understand the current challenges and how to actually, quote and unquote, position and sell learning and development in their organizations or for organizations or for individuals, as the case may be. This brings us to the Introduction to Learning and Development Part 2. Can I have the next slide, please? Our agenda will cut across learning and development proposition, stakeholder identification and buy-in, positional adaptation and evaluation, and then shifting centers of learning. So our engagement this evening will make us more with the ability to rub minds, discuss, look at more innovative and solution-oriented methodologies that a HR practitioner can actually use to position learning and development a lot different for organizations. Next slide, please. So let's look at learning and development proposition. Learning and development proposition. Learning and development has tremendous attributes, benefits, and value. These are usually what the HR practitioner likes to make available to the employees and to the management at large. However, the values derived or derivable are basically upon impact. It simply means your presentation of learning and development to an individual organization can only be gotten when the person makes impact with that learning intervention or that learning environment. So at face value, it is nothing. They say talk is cheap, right? So, and that forms the basis for employees or even management cadre sometimes assuming or being presumptuous about learning interventions. So you hear words like, I have been to several trainings. What's this one going to be like? Is it going to be any different? Don't even bother. We've been to so many. There isn't going to be any difference any difference from what you are actually introducing at this point in time. And so learning and development becomes a hard sell for the HR practitioner. And possibly so, HR practitioners sometimes go at learning and development more as an accomplishment of their KPIs or job roles rather than an intervention methodology or intervention method that will enhance the overall value add for the organization. Now, benefits are known but must be shown through identifiable learning gaps, impact assessment of employees, and grow modeling. The grow modeling methodology for HR practitioners is just simply a method by which you want to present learning and development before the organization or before management in such a manner that makes them see why what you want to do is of value. GROW is an acronym where G stands for the goal of the Learning and Development Initiative. R talks about the current reality, the reality of the organization with regards to learning and development, not what you hope the organization will be or the employees will be after the learning intervention, but what they currently present as you speak. Then O, the several options of intervention that you as a HR practitioner intend to make available to the employees or management in line with the goal. And then W, looking at the list of options that you have, you now take a decision. What do you do? This could be done alone, but more preferably with a team of say 2 or 3, but the final decision making rests on your table. And that is the leadership role that HRs play or should play, in as much as there is the influx of management on some of the aspects of HR interventions in organizations. Organizations don't buy brands, but they seek learning solutions. So an organization may have had HR managers before you came. There could have been HR interventions before you came, but organizations are not moved by the names of the several interventions, rather the solutions that these learning interventions will provide, and that's what your grow modeling will help you accomplish. The next slide, please. We have the value chain alignment. So you've done the needful by having an L&D proposition to the management, but you now want to align the value of the L&D interventions that you have with the organization. Learning and development of value means several things to several organizations because varying organizations have gone through varying stages of growth and their learning interventions per stage differs. So an organization that is 2 years, an organization that is 20 years, an organization that is 10 years have several varying multidimensional learning and development interventions, which the HR practitioner or manager or leader needs to know. Now, the L&D would present several learning interventions or values, and they vary from one organization to the next, as I earlier said. But you need to discover what the value chain for your organization is relative to the requirements of your chief executive officer and the industry you operate in. The chief executive officer has certain key value chains that they would like to grow as an organization. Now, there's the perceived value chain of perceived value. There is also the determined value, which you can get through several measures. It could be questionnaires, it could be feedback mechanisms. However, these particular type of value determination obtained from the chief executive officer, like asking key questions, sir or madam, as the case may be. What are those front burner issues for the organization with regards to its value that keep you up at night or on your toes, sir, that you currently like us to address? It means you are thinking in line with the organization's key value propositions or key value for those moments or value chain, and it keeps you in value. Value drives value. You become more valuable to the organization. Now, the industry that you are in and the existing competitors and the business environment or the business model influences the KDM, the key decision makers in the organization, and what it is that they prioritize per time as value. And so this brings you closer, and then your decision-making processes or your solutions mean a lot. Now, stay in touch with the changing trends and analytics to align with your L&D programs so that it meets their specific needs in their value chain. They're not going left and you're going right with your solutions. Next line, please. Can I have the next slide, please? You also need to identify the stakeholders in your organization. In every organization, we have what we call power centers. Power centers exist everywhere. The ability to determine these power centers via stakeholders plays a key role. Now, the power centers are not negative by connotation. It just means these are the driving units or forces for this particular industry or organization, and their key learning interventions will determine how far the organization will go. So who determines where the sugar is in your organization? Who determines the pace, the beats, the speed, the decision making, the requirements, the needs for your organization are? Identify where, whom, or what, and then take appropriate steps to identify what the key learning interventions are based on identifiable gaps. Do you really know who these people are and what their needs are? It's very important to touch base with these power or stakeholder centers so that your value delivery is in alignment with the stakeholders. Then what determines the criteria for who is considered for a training? These may be salient points that help you as a HR personnel determine whether learning interventions are going owing to favoritism or some other reason and is affecting the overall delivery across board, or the reason why some units or strategic business departments in the organization are lacking while others are seemingly midway. Then, do you know the hierarchical and organogrammic power centers and how they operate? It's very important. Being in touch with your organogram, the lines and delineation of duties plays a key role in also how you align your learning and development initiatives. What the key decision makers will require as learning interventions across the working managers and junior managers will also differ per, per time, per year, and per position. And this needs to be determined on an ongoing basis because as the organization moves into several phases, their determining needs also vary. And one size doesn't fit all. Next slide, please. Very vital. Learning, culture, and adaptation. You need to, as a HR practitioner, actually enhance this vigorously. There needs to be a learning culture created that stimulates innovation, accountability, responsibility, and development. Now, learning and development that does not stimulate innovation is a waste of resources, both human resources and financial resources. Those learning interventions should be innovative. Expensive is not the word, innovative. So we work value with cost. There's that cost benefit analysis ratio that is done. and innovation is the key difference. Accountability. It enhances people to take responsibility and be accountable for their own success. They don't just fill out their KPIs, but there must be performance-based KPIs that are tied to learning interventions. So yes, they have filled out their responses from their ongoing training or trainings they have had, but there should be that assessment that is practicable, that is solution-based, that shows they have taken into account training that they've received. It also should engender responsibility. They should take responsibility and then overall improve development. That is, there should be marked increments. So the same challenges that they faced previously, post-learning development interventions should begin to reflect organically and not stereotypically. So it means we need to see people grow across board. Because what happens is sometimes when learning interventions are not granular, we have employees who become positional leaders that are inept, incapable, and cannot deliver. So let that intervention that you provide as a HR manager be different. And you can motivate them. It is very valid. Motivations, either through acknowledgement, awards, or rewards, is also a key way of stimulating performance. Next slide. Positional adaptation and evaluation is very key. That you cannot forget. Average managers and their subordinates have a way in which they suggest that subordinates alone require learning, and so managers take backseat. As a HR need to know that learning all round, and management needs to be involved, not just junior management. Next slide, please. We have shifting centers of learning. HR leaders need to alter the platforms and methodology of learning. A more immersive and engaging methodology of learning and development improves IQ, improves EI, reason, and not just take instructions without being proactive. This is vital, this is important. With questions or observations you may have, if that is available at this time. Thank you.